I regret to say that this bride has no father, comes from a poor background, and lacks proper education. But rest assured, we will educate her properly in our household, my mother-in-law declared after stepping onto the stage during my wedding ceremony with my husband, supposedly to give a congratulatory speech. She wore a nasty smirk on her heavily lipsticked mouth. Our family runs a successful company. Who knows what kind of unsavory life this girl led, growing up in a single-parent household. We simply cannot have someone of such low quality tarnishing our family name. The venue began to stir with murmurs at her spiteful words, so inappropriate for what should have been a joyous celebration. My body turned cold with fear as I watched our precious wedding ceremony being ruined. My father had passed away when I was young, and I had grown up supporting each other with my mother. She worked tirelessly day and night to put me through high school, and now I'm a successful working professional. There was absolutely nothing shameful about our lives, and I felt anger bubbling up from deep within at her cruel words. Besides, my mother-in-law shouldn't have known about my family's situation. I felt a surge of terror, wondering how this information had leaked. How could you? Why? Shocked, I hung my head and shed tears despite it being my special day. My husband beside me sat frozen, his face pale. He had grown weary of his mother's obsession with him and her attempts to interfere with our relationship, and had spoken with her directly multiple times. However, he probably never expected her to drop such a bombshell at our wedding. The atmosphere in the venue had become terribly ominous, making even the sparkling chandeliers and colorful flowers seem to lose their luster. That's when someone's footsteps echoed loudly through the hall. Looking up, I saw my mother walking toward the stage. Her expression showed a quiet fury I had never imagined possible from my usually gentle and calm mother. She glared at my mother-in-law as she climbed onto the stage. Then, she forcefully grabbed the microphone from my mother-in-law's hands. Facing my stunned mother-in-law, my mother spoke in a low voice into the microphone, "If anyone's lacking in quality, it's your company. We've already taken care of putting your company out of business. My name is Pamela, and I'm a 31-year-old office worker. I met my husband Lot at the same company. I was drawn to his honest and gentle nature, while he said he was attracted to my hard-working personality. His parents run a natural food import and distribution business, making him the president's son. He joined the company where I work instead of his parents' company because they wanted him to gain outside experience. The company I work for is managed by my mother and also deals in health foods and natural products. In other words, we're competitors. My father passed away when I was young, and my mother runs the company as its president. I work there as a systems engineer. Lot and I began working together when I was assigned to train him in app development. He seemed unaware of it, but his good looks made him quietly popular around the office. However, he was inexperienced in romance and somewhat awkward. I found it endearing how he would earnestly try to find topics of conversation whenever we had lunch together. If you're not seeing anyone, would you consider going out with me? His awkward but sincere confession touched my heart. I myself had been focused solely on work until then and had little dating experience, so being confessed to so directly was a first for me. Though I felt hesitant, my affection for him far outweighed any doubts, and I happily accepted. However, since he was popular among the female employees, we decided to keep our relationship secret at work to avoid complications. Our peaceful and innocent courtship had barely begun when dark clouds appeared. During our dates, his phone would ring very frequently. Each time, he would step away to take the call and return after talking to someone. He wasn't in a position that required constant contact on holidays, and I couldn't imagine he was cheating with another woman. Puzzled, I asked him about it. You keep taking phone calls. Is everything okay? Did something happen? He answered with slight awkwardness, though I could tell immediately from his manner that he wasn't lying. It's from my mother. She wants me to report everything about what I'm doing and how things are going when I'm with you. What? What's that about? I was shocked both by his mother's controlling behavior and by the fact that he didn't seem to mind it. I didn't know exactly what he was telling his mother, and we weren't doing anything wrong that needed to be hidden. Still, our time together should be private, and I didn't like the idea of everything being reported to his parent. While I hesitated to interfere with another family's rules, I knew I couldn't avoid addressing it if we were going to have a future together. So I carefully said, that might be a problem. It's unsettling how often you take calls, and I don't like having everything about us reported. Are you really okay with this? He looked at me intently with a troubled expression. Is it really that strange? Apparently, he had hardly ever discussed relationships even with friends his age. He seemed a bit confused that I objected to something he had considered normal. Yes, it is strange. I'm sorry, but I'd rather you not take calls when we're together. If you really need to tell your mother something, couldn't it wait until you get home? Not take the calls. He repeated slowly as if hearing the words for the first time, his eyes wide with surprise. I wondered what kind of life he had led until now, and what kind of relationship he had built with his parents. Anxiety welled up in my chest as I thought about our future. That's right. Everyone has times when they're busy and can't answer calls. Can't you just call back later? Oh. You're right. Maybe that would work. That way I could focus on our dates properly. He nodded deeply, his eyes shining. It was as if he had just discovered for the first time in his life that not answering his mother's calls was an option. Thank you for telling me. Though I had only stated what seemed obvious to me, he kept thanking me enthusiastically for some reason. Blushing, he turned off his phone. After that, there were no more ringtones or him stepping away to take calls. We could spend uninterrupted time together, just the two of us, talking and having tea. Several weeks passed after that. He seemed to make it a habit to always turn off his phone when he was with me. It's so nice not having any phone calls, he would say with amazement. Is this what it's like being the president's son? Though I found myself holding my head in my hands a bit, I decided to continue the relationship since he himself was fundamentally an honest and sincere person. Yes, it is. Let's keep prioritizing our time together from now on too. I smiled, and he nodded. However, something strange started happening around this time. One day while walking through town with Lot, I constantly felt someone's gaze on us from behind. And as we moved, the same footsteps followed. I became certain we were being followed. Hey, I think someone's following us, I told Lot, and his expression immediately tensed up. This is creepy, I'm going to say something. After telling him this, I waited for the right moment at a corner and turned around. I easily spotted the person who had been tailing us, a middle-aged woman carrying a bag with a prominent luxury brand logo. She wore heavy makeup and sunglasses. Excuse me, but you've been following us, haven't you? I called out to her. The woman twisted her bright red lipsticked mouth. So you're Pamela? Quite plain and unremarkable. As I bristled at being insulted by someone I just met, Lot turned around at the sound of her voice and his eyes went wide. Mom. What? Why are you following us? What? This is your mother. I was the one surprised by Lot's words. I couldn't believe this gaudy woman was his mother. The woman removed her sunglasses to show her face and smiled slyly. You haven't been answering my calls on your days off lately, dear. You used to give me detailed reports about your dates. I was worried, so I followed you. What has this woman been putting into your head? Such stalker-like behavior stemming from an obsession with her son, and such harsh words towards someone she just met. I felt my blood boiling and stepped forward to confront her. Following us secretly is completely inappropriate. Weekends are private time. That applies to family too. You don't need to worry, we're not doing anything wrong. Please leave us alone. She widened her eyes and put on an exaggerated, troubled expression. How rude. I'm Lot's mother. What's wrong with a mother being concerned about her son? I can't have him dating someone unsuitable. I stood my ground and tried to reason with her. Don't you trust your son? This isn't kindness, it's just control. And I'm a respectable employee at the same company as him. Please understand and stop following us. Perhaps overwhelmed by my forceful response, Lot's mother pursed her lips like a child and walked away muttering something. Though I felt a bit sorry seeing her walking away dejectedly with slumped shoulders, stalking us on a date was going too far. I let out a big sigh as the tension drained from my body. Then Lot, who had been standing next to me, grabbed my shoulders and looked at me with sparkling eyes. Thank you. You're amazing, you actually made my mother leave. It's nothing. I just said what needed to be said. I'm glad she left. But her obsession seems pretty intense if she's actually stalking us. As I hung my head saying this, he also hunched his shoulders. In our house, my mother has the most authority, and it was just normal not to go against her since she's the type who needs to control everything about us. His mother seemed to be the type who needed to dominate both company and family completely. That night, Lot thanked me repeatedly about the stalking incident, and then proposed to me. I've always been unhappy with my mother. Having to report everything about my private life to her. I thought that was normal until now. But you made me realize I actually hated it. Thank you. You're smart and capable, I feel like you can help make my life freer. His words and sunny smile made me feel good too. I'm not as impressive as he thinks. But if being together would be a step toward happiness for us both, I wanted to forge ahead into the future with him. Still, I had concerns. Thank you. I want to walk through life together with you too. But I'm still worried about your mother from earlier. I'm concerned about whether I'll be able to get along with your family after we're married. Lot took my hand and made me a promise. I'm sorry for making you worry. My mother has that kind of personality, so she might show her strong personality again in the future. But no matter what happens, I'll always be on your side, so don't worry. Hearing his clear promise, I nodded. When worried about a mother-in-law, the biggest concern is having the husband take his mother's side. But if he was promising to be on my side, I felt we could overcome it. Okay. Thank you. Looking forward to our future together. And so we became officially engaged. The day before going to tell my mother, Lot said he had something to do and stopped by his parents' house. The next day, when we went to my home together, my mother warmly welcomed him. My daughter has always been such a hard worker, and I was actually a bit worried. But I'm so glad she met you. My mother blessed us with her biggest smile. Though I had told her beforehand that Lot was the son of a rival company's president and had been concerned about that, it turned out there was nothing to worry about. In this flow of events, I told him about growing up in a single-parent household and how my father had died in a traffic accident at work when I was young. As I waited for his response after telling him this, my body trembled slightly with anxiety at the thought that he might break off our engagement after learning this. Lot listened to everything with a sad expression throughout. Then he supported my back and smiled, saying, "You've been through so much sadness and worked so hard until now. I'll be here for you from now on. Let's be happy together." Tears of relief fell unconsciously. He wiped away those tears, while my mother watched over us warmly. I felt like I could spend the rest of my life peacefully with this person. And so concluded our visit to my family home. Then came the day we went to report to Lot's parents. Yes, that mother's house. As I had somewhat expected, my mother-in-law maintained an unhappy attitude throughout. She wore heavy makeup even at home and had on a sweater with a large designer brand logo. "I need to get back to the company soon. Let's keep this brief," she said curtly while roughly setting down tea. Indeed, a president's work is busy. But is that any way to speak? At least my mother never takes such an unpleasant attitude toward guests, whether at work or in private. "I'm sorry for taking your time," I apologized anyway. "Unlike your leisurely company, we work constantly to expand our business. We cut costs to the bone to increase sales, spread our name, and try new things. I manage absolutely everything." Lot's mother knew my mother was the president of a rival company. That's why she was making these nasty comments. Her business acumen might be impressive, but we're not slacking off either. Our policy is to steadily build trust while valuing our employees and customers. Lot's father was also present, but he just sipped his tea with a wry smile. As Lot had said, apparently no one but his mother had any say in things. "Well, let's set work talk aside. This is a happy occasion," Lot's father said. His mother glanced at him briefly, then as if she hadn't heard anything, continued addressing me in an accusatory tone. "So? Lot is our only son, but do you intend to support the future president of our company? You're not planning to work at your company for life, are you?" "Well, I'll continue working at my current company for now, but I intend to support Lot properly. With pregnancy and childbirth likely in the future, I'd like to consider work matters after that." I said this because I understood she wouldn't be happy having her son's wife working for a competitor. However, I still wanted to do my best at my mother's company. At the same time, it was true that my career path would be unclear after pregnancy and childbirth. I asked to keep things pending considering various factors. My mother-in-law snorted at me and lit a cigarette right there. Do what you want for now. Just make sure you don't bring shame to our family or company name." At this point, Lot leaned forward. "Mom, don't worry. I'll definitely return to your company as promised once I finish my current work, and I'll contribute to the company. And Pamela is very studious and hardworking, so she'll handle both work and family properly. We'll support each other and be happy." After Lot said this, his mother remained sullen and silent for a while before dismissively saying, "Fine. Lot, don't forget your responsibility as our family's heir and do your best," she said, ending the conversation. We didn't mention that I grew up in a single-parent household during this meeting. Lot had told me beforehand, family circumstances shouldn't matter for marriage. He probably figured his mother wouldn't stay quiet if we brought it up and was being considerate. I was grateful for his thoughtfulness and decided to convince his mother by discussing our commitment to marriage and future plans instead. After his mother fell silent, his father changed the subject to specific wedding plans. We need to set a wedding date. We'll provide venue and guest list candidates, so you can handle the details. I desperately held back from making a face. Honestly, I didn't want a big wedding reception. I didn't have many people to invite, and more importantly, having a ceremony would mean more interactions with my mother-in-law. I wanted to keep my distance from her as much as possible. Whether aware of my feelings or not, Lot said to his father, "Do we really need a proper reception? The preparations are tough, and I think just a small party with family would be fine." At that moment, his mother raised her voice. "What are you saying? How can the president's son not have a proper wedding reception? It won't look good. We need to make a grand announcement to all employees and business partners. I can't believe you don't understand even this. Oh, I'm so worried." His mother was getting increasingly worked up. To calm her down, I answered firmly, "I understand. Let's do it. It's fine, we'll have a proper ceremony that will bring honor to your company." Though I really wasn't enthusiastic about it, I couldn't risk upsetting my mother-in-law further here. I suppressed my true feelings and showed enthusiasm for the reception. "Is that okay with you too, Lot? Are you sure you're okay with this?" "Yes. I have people I want to invite too, and if they're letting us handle the details, that's fine." And so concluded our visit to his parents' home. I was still anxious about getting along with Lot's mother going forward, but I wanted to manage somehow. I was experienced in handling difficult people in business meetings, so I was confident in my ability to understand others' wishes and align with them within reasonable bounds. I hoped to handle both work and family smoothly without any issues. A few weeks later, we received venue candidates from Lot's parents, and the wedding preparations proceeded hurriedly. Since Lot's side was inviting so many employees and acquaintances, I frantically consulted with my mother to increase our guest list too. Though we had some friction with my mother-in-law over the speech order and other issues, nothing developed into a major problem, and the wedding day drew near. Several months later, the wedding day arrived. I was in the preparation room, dressed in my gown with hair and makeup done. I smiled at my reflection in the mirror. Though we had ultimately adapted most of the ceremony to Lot's parents' wishes, I had insisted on choosing my own dress design and went to the final fitting myself just before the wedding. The flowing mermaid-line pure white dress flattered my figure beautifully, and I couldn't wait to show it to my mother, friends, and Lot. As I was savoring my joy, my mother-in-law suddenly burst into the preparation room. She barged in without knocking, and her face was contorted with anger. "Pamela, you changed the dress I chose without permission, didn't you?" she accused me right off the bat. "After I went to the trouble of picking out something cute for you. How dare you change it to something like this? What are we going to do now?" I felt annoyed at her finding fault with this beautiful dress design. However, I had enough composure at this moment to manage a smile. "I'm sorry." Lot said this style suited me better. I wasn't lying, by the way. When I changed the dress design, I had consulted with my husband and received his approval. He had also told me this style suited me better. My mother-in-law clicked her tongue softly and said, "Oh, really? You haven't made any other unnecessary changes, have you? Just make sure you don't embarrass our family during the ceremony," before slamming the door shut as she left. I sighed in relief that it hadn't escalated further. A wedding ceremony should belong to the bride and groom. Yet the venue, content, and nearly everything had been decided by my mother-in-law, and now she was even finding fault with the dress I had managed to change to one I liked. It was suffocating. Still, this was my wedding day. The bride shouldn't have a gloomy expression. I lifted my spirits by looking at myself in the mirror once more before heading to the venue. Guests were steadily gathering in the spacious venue. Relatives, company colleagues, superiors, subordinates, business partners, friends, we ended up with over 100 people. Of course, this included my mother-in-law, father-in-law, and my mother. Despite my nervousness, the ceremony proceeded smoothly. We entered arm in arm. The MC gave a flattering introduction speech highlighting the best parts of our backgrounds, a slideshow of our memories played, and we did the wedding cake first bite. Of course, my husband was moved by how I looked in my wedding dress and told me I was the most beautiful in the world. During the reception, my friends sincerely celebrated our marriage, and we took lots of photos. Everyone complimented my carefully chosen dress, which made me very happy. Towards the end of the ceremony came the time for family speeches. The first speech was to be given by the groom's family representative, my mother-in-law. Her makeup was even heavier than usual in her expensive branded suit, making her look almost like a clown. Standing on stage, she began with the usual congratulatory phrases. She wore a self-satisfied expression as she received applause from over 100 guests. Then, after taking a breath, she displayed an unpleasant smirk on her bright red lipsticked mouth. What she said next made my breath stop. I regret to say that this bride has no father, comes from a poor background, and lacks proper education. But rest assured, we will educate this filthy woman properly in our household. My mother-in-law's voice filled the spacious venue. Our family runs a company. Who knows what kind of unsavory life this girl led, growing up in a single-parent household. We simply cannot keep someone of such low quality who would tarnish our family name as a daughter-in-law. Her gaze was fixed on me as she shouted these words, her eyes upturned. I felt terror that made my skin crawl. The numerous hanging chandeliers, the flowers arranged everywhere, all the festive celebration atmosphere instantly faded away. The venue began to stir at her malicious words. My body turned cold as our precious wedding ceremony was ruined. I had lived my life working hard together with my mother. To repay her kindness in putting me through high school, I studied programming at a vocational school, and by the time I got a job, I had become skilled enough to be entrusted with the company's app development. Now I serve as a leader with responsibilities. My mother also managed the company while raising me, never showing a tired or unpleasant face, always maintaining her gentle demeanor, and earning deep trust from those around her. We had absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. I felt anger bubbling up from deep within at her cruel words. Besides, how did she know about my family situation? We hadn't told her about this. I felt a surge of terror, wondering how this information had leaked. Shocked, I hung my head and shed tears despite it being my special day. My husband beside me sat frozen, his face pale. He probably never expected such a bombshell to be dropped at our wedding ceremony. How could we recover from this atmosphere? Though I knew I needed to think, my mind wouldn't work properly. A few seconds felt incredibly long to me. That's when someone's loud footsteps echoed through the hall. Looking up, I saw my mother walking toward the stage. Her expression showed a quiet fury I had never imagined possible from my usually gentle and calm mother. She glared at my mother-in-law as she climbed onto the stage. Then, she forcefully grabbed the microphone from my mother-in-law's hands. Facing my stunned mother-in-law, my mother spoke in a low voice into the microphone, "If anyone's lacking in quality, it's your company. We've already taken care of putting your company out of business." Her words caused the already stirring venue to erupt in chaos. My mother continued speaking confidently, paying no mind to the commotion. As mentioned in the bride and groom's introduction earlier, my daughter works at the company I manage. With our company's management reforms, your company no longer has any strength left. After saying this, my mother gave Lot a meaningful look. Though appearing slightly awkward, he took the microphone directly from my mother. I hadn't expected to discuss this in such a setting, but actually, my mother's company policy of cutting costs to the extreme to increase profits was leading to employee overwork. The atmosphere in the venue changed again. People from my mother-in-law's company looked down, while my friends widened their eyes in surprise. I had repeatedly asked Mother to improve the illegal working conditions, but she wouldn't listen, calling it a necessary evil for expanding the company. When I consulted with Pamela, it happened that her mother was starting business reforms, so we headhunted almost all of Mother's company's employees. And everyone agreed to it. My mother-in-law's face on stage turned deathly pale. Her face, twisted with shock and humiliation, looked almost monstrous. That's impossible. Everyone quitting is absurd. It must be a lie since I, the president, didn't know about it. Responding to my mother-in-law's hysterical shouting, my mother replied firmly. You hardly ever tried to keep track of employee personnel matters despite being president. We already received approval from the HR manager. Though that person will also be transferring to our company. Apparently, my mother-in-law, who worked her employees like horses day and night without even trying to remember their faces or names, had long since lost the trust of all her employees. Everything had proceeded without her knowledge. My mother-in-law trembled violently and screamed in a shrill voice. Stop making things up. I get it. You're embarrassed about not having a husband and frustrated. So you're enjoying insulting me at this important occasion. My mother lowered her eyebrows in exasperation and spoke matter-of-factly to my mother-in-law. Of course not. Weren't you the one who first tried to ruin this ceremony? That's not true. I was just trying to properly educate this poor, unsophisticated, poorly raised, filthy woman as the future company president's wife. Just as she was about to continue, my father-in-law approached. He stood between my mother-in-law and my mother, trying to settle things down. Now, both of you, let's leave it at that. This is supposed to be a celebration. We can discuss company matters calmly later. My father-in-law's words made sense, and both my mother-in-law and mother fell silent with disgruntled expressions. But just as they were about to return to their seats, a man was suddenly standing near the stage. The illegal labor conditions are partly our responsibility too for not addressing them sooner. However, Mr. and Mrs. President, no one can cover up your embezzlement. These words in a low voice came from an executive at my mother-in-law's company. He was also in charge of personnel matters. My father-in-law's eyes widened, then he glared at the man with a twisted expression. My mother-in-law ground her teeth with a demonic expression. Every month at meetings, the accounting department reported that the company books weren't adding up. Despite increasing sales and reducing expenses, the profits didn't match. You might not have known, Madam President, since you always skipped meetings citing business trips. Then last month, we discovered security camera footage of you two taking company bank books without authorization. This sent the venue into maximum uproar. Embezzlement? I can't believe it. Such voices could be clearly heard here and there. My mother had heard about this embezzlement while she was headhunting employees from my mother-in-law's company. Though she hadn't planned to reveal it here, she had informed each employee individually. My mother-in-law's face turned bright red as she shouted. You don't say such outrageous things. Don't you know how hard I've worked to increase the company's profits? Everyone, just stop it. With her piercing scream, the wedding reception was ultimately cancelled. My in-laws fled to a preparation room, the MC hastily announced the dissolution, and guests left with disappointed looks. I could only manage to leave a few words of apology and promises to meet again with some friends. Then my husband, my mother, and I headed to the preparation room where my in-laws had holed up. Since it wasn't locked, we could immediately see their despairing faces when we opened the door. My husband spoke first. Mother. This was supposed to be our wedding reception. It's really disappointing. After all, we only had this reception because you two wanted it. Even after hearing these words, they said nothing. I approached them and asked while looking directly at their faces, about my family situation. You shouldn't have known about me not having a father. How did you find out? My mother-in-law looked up at me with a glare. Then she confessed the reason. The day before you went to greet your family, when we called Lot to our house, I planted a listening device in his bag. What? You're kidding. This drew an exclamation of surprise from Lot. Come to think of it, she had been clearly strange since the stalking incident. She was the type of person who wouldn't hesitate to plant a listening device to control her son. Perhaps we should have been more cautious when Lot was called to his parents' house the day before visiting my family. Lot, I'm sorry. If I had been more careful then. That's wrong. He strongly cut off what I was about to say. You did nothing wrong. Besides, I should have been the one being cautious at that time. Even in this situation, I felt like crying with joy at him protecting me. And those tears transformed into tears of fear. His mother's obsessive attachment to Lot, the stalking during dates, and even planting a listening device to investigate my family background, this was going way too far. No matter how careful I was, even with Lot on my side, I couldn't feel safe living with this continuing. After we got married and started our life together, it wouldn't be strange if she secretly installed surveillance cameras throughout our house. I absolutely couldn't endure such a life. As I trembled with fear, my mother who was with us spoke up. Neither of them did anything wrong. You're the one who went too far. I understand being worried about your child. But they have a right to privacy too. What you've done is a human rights violation. My mother spoke in a gentle but firm tone. My mother-in-law glared up at my mother and continued her abuse. Don't act so high and mighty. Deceiving our employees to increase your own profits, how low can you get? I guess people from incomplete families really are somehow wrong in the head. My mother shot back without backing down. You're the one who's wrong. Your abnormal obsession with your son is bad enough, but I absolutely won't forgive your verbal abuse of my daughter during this speech. My mother refused to back down. My mother who had thrown herself into business in place of my deceased father. Who never forgot to shower me with love despite that. My mother who was now truly angry for my sake. I felt deep respect for my mother who was both strong and gentle. Lot approached the two women glaring at each other. I completely agree with her opinion. I'm not a small child anymore. I don't need mother's surveillance anymore. And mother, you ruined our wedding ceremony to spread your prejudices and be mean. You cornered and hurt my wife. I cannot forgive this. From today on, I'm cutting ties with both you and father. Facing her son who had spoken so decisively, my mother-in-law widened her eyes with tears. Why? I was just worried about you. I only wanted you to have a proper life. What's so wrong with that? My husband shook his head without flinching. Even if those feelings were right, your methods were wrong. And about the company too, neglecting employee labor management and welfare while claiming cost reduction and the embezzlement. I can't accept it as a working adult. Especially mother, you always have expensive branded bags and clothes, weren't those bought with embezzled company money? That's not true. I'm the president after all. It's normal to earn enough to buy such things. Even if that's true, the fact that the company books don't match and the security camera footage are real. I've had enough. I can no longer be your family, and of course I won't inherit the company. Having this thrust at him by his son, my mother-in-law's face became a mess of tears. Her heavy makeup smeared with tears, becoming increasingly ugly. Please, don't say that. I'll manage the company properly. I'll resolve the embezzlement issue too. I'll aim for sound management from now on. And I'll stop monitoring you. You're our only son. Please don't talk about cutting ties. My father-in-law sitting next to my mother-in-law also jumped to her defense. That's right. Perhaps we were a bit indulgent. But cutting ties is too extreme. Go home and think about this calmly. Even with both parents clinging to him, Lot firmly shook his head without giving in. No, this is absolutely not a decision made in the heat of the moment. When I learned about mother's stalking and the embezzlement, I had already decided in my heart to cut ties with you both when I got married. I've already discussed this with Pamela and her mother. So it cannot be overturned. We'll discuss future matters through lawyers. Goodbye. Lot spoke decisively. His posture was straight and upright, completely different from his former self who couldn't even conceive of ignoring his mother's calls. Looking at his back, I felt his reliability and was truly glad I had decided to marry him. Then we quickly changed clothes, apologized to the MC and staff, and left the venue, leaving Lot's parents still sniffling in the preparation room. After that, Lot successfully cut ties with his parents. We moved into our new home, our hearts full of expectations for our new life together. Meanwhile, I heard from Lot that his parents were taken to court over the embezzlement. Apparently, his suspicion about them buying branded goods with embezzled money had been correct. They had extensively used company money for their own expensive purchases and trips, and even accumulated debt. The company's finances were so deeply in the red that the books couldn't possibly be shown publicly, causing a major problem. The prosecuted couple received actual prison sentences, and both are now serving time. Of course, with all employees headhunted and the president arrested, the company went bankrupt. The large amount of debt left behind will naturally have to be repaid by my father-in-law and mother-in-law in the future. Afterward, Lot continued working at my mother's company. Of course, he stayed in the same department, working together with me. We promised to build trust in both work and private life. My mother, my husband, and I celebrated our marriage properly over dinner at our favorite restaurant. We enjoyed discussing work and making small talk, confirming the bonds we would share as family going forward. Though a lot happened, I'm just so happy to see you two looking so happy now. That's what matters most to me. And remember, in both work and family life, honesty and sincerity are most important. Though I'm not worried about you two, my mother said with a joking smile, wine glass in hand. She looked cheerful yet reliable. Next to her, Lot, who had grown remarkably more masculine these past few months, nodded with a bright smile. Looking at them, I silently vowed to cherish these two people for life. Subsequently, my mother skillfully managed the company with its greatly increased workforce, significantly raising sales before expanding to build a new branch the following year. My husband and I get along well at home, and at work, we're trusted by our colleagues as a compatible team while bearing responsibility for all the company's system-related matters. Perhaps someday we'll be blessed with children. That might make my mother even happier. With such thoughts in mind, we're living happy, smile-filled days, fulfilled in both work and family life.